This video is on making glaze palettes, and I can't wait to start sharing this with you. Let's get started. The materials that you're going to need are rolling pin, 4 paint sticks, your DIY carving tool, a fettling knife, rib, and clay. And in your book you have a page to draw out some possibilities, and this is the one I'm going to use, but make sure that you do that ahead of time. And then you're going to take some scratch paper and actually draw it the size that you want it to be. So you can see I'm drawing it a little bit bigger here. I'm using pencil to start, but then I'm going to use some water-soluble marker. And you could use a ruler if you wanted to. Best thing though is to have rounded edges. I'm making like a moon shape here. And then I'm going to also use a little round template to get the inside part of the palette, like where you'd put your glaze or your paint. And that just helps me get it more even, but you can also hand draw your little sections and they don't even have to be circular. And then I'm going to outline it with a water-soluble pen and in a darker color, because this is actually going to transfer to our clay. So I'm making a template or like a pattern that I'm going to use on my clay. So anything that I want to show up on my clay, I am outlining with a water-soluble marker. Then I'm going to actually cut out the template, but I'm cutting up like around it pretty widely. So I'm just kind of chunky cutting it out, and now I have my template. If I go down to my notes, step 1 should be draw out your design to the size you want it with a water-soluble marker on scratch paper. Okay. Step 2, roll out clay to 1/2 inch thickness. So here's how we're going to do that. We're going to use 2 stir sticks from paint stir sticks on each side. So 2 paint stir sticks stacked up is 1/2 inch. See that right there? Okay, so I have 2 on the left and 2 on the right, and I need to put down my canvas, and then I'll put the stir sticks on top, and I'm just going to put my clay in the middle, and I'm going to roll it out, and this will give me a 1/2 inch thickness. And I need to make sure, that it's big enough to fit my template. So I'm going to roll it out. And the idea is that you roll your clay and then you turn it a little bit. And so I'm going to roll it a little bit and then I'm going to turn it. So I'm going to turn it sideways and upside down. And that way it'll stretch both ways. And I keep rolling and doing this until my rolling pin ends up just on those stir sticks. So I'm turning it upside down, rolling it some more, and now it's the right size, just making sure I get it nice and flat and even, and I'm turning it one more time. All right, now I can feel that it's only rubbing, the rolling pin is only rolling on the stir stick, so I know the clay is 1/2 inch thick, and I'm ready to start the next step. Step 3, so smooth out clay with your rib. There we go. And this is getting all the particles aligned and smoothing out any canvas texture. Remember, we don't want any canvas texture. So I'm smoothing this out with my rib, which is just my card, my gift card. And then step 4, I'm going to put my design face down, and I only really have one shot at this, and rub it so that the marker will transfer. So write down rub it on your note sheet. And I'm really rubbing with my finger, really trying to get the paper where the marker is, a little bit of the moisture from the clay activates that marker. You can see I didn't quite get enough, so you kind of have to rub and test it out a little bit. And then when you peel it off, that marker is going to transfer and it's going to be your guide to where you're going to cut. All right, and going on to step 5, cut the edges of your design out with the fettling knife. So this is not a sharp knife, but it's a knife cutting clay. And I'm going to carefully go around and cut out the outside edge of my palette. To get rid of my excess clay, and I'm going to move on to step 6, and that is smooth and round the edges with your finger. So you can see I'm just smoothing and rounding the edges so I don't have a sharp point. Once it gets fired, anything that's at a sharp angle will be sharp. And so I'm just going to take some time and do this. So I'm going to use my DIY carving tool, and I'm going to cut out the inside of these circles, which are called your pans. So I'm going to cut out step 7, carve out the inside of your pans with your DIY carving tool, and you're going to go down about 1/4 of an inch or halfway through. You still want to leave some clay there so that you can hold whatever you're going to hold in your palette. So I'm taking off chunks little by little, and those little chunks can go into the clay recycling, and we will reclaim that. You can see I'm just taking my time and really carving down so I have a good area, and then I'm going to smooth it out. So I'm going to use my finger and kind of smooth and press so that the bottom part of my pan is even and smooth. And this is really important, so make sure you take your time and do a nice job at this. I also want to rub the edges right here and make sure that they are rounded as well. So any cut edges that I made, I'm just smoothing over with my finger. I'm using just a small amount of water to really get my final smoothing of my edges and rounding of the corners. Not too much water though, you can kind of go crazy with water, so just a little bit of water does the trick. Okay, and then I'm going to carve out the rest of my pans, so I'll let you watch that. So I'm just finishing smoothing and rounding the edges with my finger. And then I'm going to place on a piece of cardboard to let sit overnight in a bag, and it'll just firm up, and then I can smooth all the edges with a little bit of water on a paintbrush, and then I can let dry to to greenware before I fire it. And of course I'd put my initials on the bottom, and then I would also glaze it either with white or clear so that I had a nice palette for my colors to show. So thank you so much for watching.